Welcome. Welcome to Talks at Google. I am Patricia Barrahaden. I am the Senior Director of Global Growth Marketing in our subscription and customer growth team here in New York City. It is the tail end of Hispanic Heritage Month. And this year, our theme at Google is Fortaleza. Courage and resilience is something that we all want to celebrate, and I cannot think of a better way than to host the cast of the Tony Award-winning Broadway musical, Buena Vista Social Club. It is inspired by true events, and it tells the origin story of the iconic Cuban band of the same name, and it centers on these legendary artists who created the Grammy Award-winning album in 1997. So quickly, show of hands, how many of you have already seen it, are planning on seeing it? Okay, quite a few of you. Great. So for those who haven't yet, it is a music-filled journey. It's with world-class Afro-Cuban band. It's a sensational cast, and what's so interesting is it transports you to Havana, Cuba. It takes place in two timelines, 1950s, before the Cuban Revolution, and then the 90s, during the recording session. The show highlights the musicians' personal journeys, their cultural heritage, and the enduring love and power of music. I actually had the privilege of seeing the band perform in 1999 when they were actually touring the United States. So this is a full circle moment for me. Okay, so before we get started, a couple reminders. One, we are gonna take audience questions. We have a Dory, but we also have live mics. So get your questions ready. And then in just a few minutes, we're gonna sit down with a few of the cast, including Mel Semé, who plays Ibrahim, Jainardo Batista Sterling, who plays Ruben, Isa Antonetti, the young Omara, Moody, young Compay, and Wesley Wray, young Ibrahim. Before we sit down with the cast, we have a treat for you guys. First, Mel and Wesley are gonna perform Murmullo from the musical, and then immediately after, we're gonna get a sneak peek of the award-winning choreography from Que Bueno Baila Usted. Take it away.
Son dos enamorados que encantados gozan del amor y ríe la vida. Que dice así.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Castellano, qué bueno baila usted. Castellano, qué bueno baila usted. Qué rico mi son cubano. Castellano, qué bueno baila. Lo baila castellano y lo canta Benny More. Castellano, qué bueno baila usted. Y esta noche no traigo con mi tres. Castellano, qué bueno baila usted.
I don't know if you saw when you were performing the little like beat in the audience, everyone was swaying. I gotta say, I saw you guys perform 2 weeks ago. You got 3 standing ovations, 2 during the performance and 1 after. And I don't know if that's normal for most performances, but everyone was trying their best not to stand up and dance. It was pure joy. So I'd love to get started because music is such a central, obviously, theme of this musical. How did this Cuban music play a role in your upbringing? Just talk a little bit about the importance of this type of music, and we can start with Isa and go around.
So I grew up with Hispanic music, with Latino music. It was in my bones since the moment I was born because my father, he directs a band for where I grew up, and my mom used to sing with it. He plays the piano, and that band consists of all of my family, if not all of my family in there. So I've been surrounded with this music for a very, very long time.
So I actually didn't grow up with this Cuban music. My mom is from Ecuador, pero I heard that. But I mean, there was always music of all kinds, you know, and we listened to mostly like salsa and cumbia, but it was never like a lot of the Cuban stuff. So I didn't come to it until later when I actually auditioned way back a couple years ago for one of the workshops, and then I was just like enraptured. It was like, okay, I'm obsessed. I learned everything.
It has a way of doing that, right?
Yeah, it just makes you happy and just embraces you warmly and so openly. So that's how I came to this.
Yes, I could say that in a way, thank you. In a way, I'm in existence because of Cuban music. Because of the fact that my grandfather, even if we all from Puerto Rico, he will say that I'm Puerto Rican, but in music, I'm Cuban. And there's a specific song, there's a bolero called Convergencia, and that's the bolero that my grandfather made my grandmother fall in love with.
Ah.
So that's why I say because of Cuban music, probably I'm here.
I love
Because
it.
if it wasn't for my grandfather,
Right?
probably I wouldn't be.
For me, so I'm not Latino. I'm Jamaican, Bahamian, Afro-Caribbean, but I grew up in Miami.
Miami, shout out.
So that alone just,
Close
you know,
enough.
yeah, close enough, you know, right across the road. So, but just, yeah, I was always engulfed in the culture and, you know, the similarities in culture and music between like reggaeton and dance hall and reggae. Just the similarities between that just made me instantly fall in love with the music when I was growing up and then reintroduced to it with this show. And I've been a part of it since January. We started rehearsals, and from that point on, I just, you know, couldn't stop listening to it. I'm always listening to some good old Cuban Latin music, Latin jazz.
Gets in your blood.
Yeah, so happy to be here. Thank you for being here. Born and raised in Cuba, and so yeah, it's kind of like in my genes. I wasn't really aware of how ingrained this music was in my system until it started to become popular in the 2000s. And I was kind of like, I walked away from the music for a while, and coming back to it, I just realized how much it's part of me. I knew all the songs before I even came into be a part of the musical. So yeah, it's pretty much the music that I grew up listening to.
Great. So let's stay with you, Mel, if you don't mind. How did you guys come to this project? Because as I mentioned in my introduction, it's, you know, back in the 40s and 50s was the actual Buena Vista Club. Then in the 90s, it was the Grammy Award-winning record, and now obviously the musical. So at what point were you introduced to it, or was it just auditioning for this project?
I actually received a very weird email through my website once, and because I haven't been playing Cuban music in a while, and I met some guys from California, and we put together a pretty cool band, the folk electronic music band. We play a lot of like festivals, and we tour a lot, and so my Cuban music was a little bit in my back pocket for a while. So when I got this email, when I visited the club in New York, musical, I gotta say I'm not, probably culturally, I'm not a big fan of musicals. I've never seen one. And so when I saw the musical attached to it, I've only seen the movies, you know, like La La Land and stuff like that. And, you know, and I'm like, what does that how does that relate to Buena Vista, which is something so authentic and so grassroots? And I felt a little bit, I don't know, I wasn't sure, and I showed it to my wife, and they wanted me to send them a video, and I'm like, I don't know, I got this email, and she's like, let's just send them the video right now, and then that was kind of like this, when the seed was planted, they, answered right away, they invited me for a workshop, and then I met all the people who were part of.
You were skeptical because you, being from Cuba, you knew this was like an iconic, legendary
Yes.
club, and you're like, how is it going to translate?
What are these New Yorkers are going to do?
What are they
with
going to do with this?
with my thing,
Right.
right? I was very kind of like curious. I don't want to be a part of it if they're just going to do some La La Land with
Yeah,
this.
yeah.
And so, but lucky for us, it's they were working on it for for years. I think like for 6-7 years prior to contacting me, and there have been so much research, and when I met them personally and I met the people who were going to be part of the thing, I'm like, this is incredible. I think this is great. I need to put everything aside and be a part of this.
Great.
Oh, for me, yeah, I was brought up for the Broadway run. I didn't know too much about it. I was summer of last year, and I was just chilling at home, and I got a DM from Tara Rubin Casting, and they just asked me to audition, and I was like, yeah. I didn't know what for. They were just like, come audition for an original Broadway show. And I said, absolutely. And it turned out to be this musical, and I saw it was in Spanish. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, but growing up in Miami, you kind of like just...
Exactly, but I'm not even gonna lie to you. I am not as proficient as I want to, but I can get around. So, I said it. Like I just grew up around Cubans everywhere I looked. I went to school in South Miami, so yeah, I feel like I'm Cuban by association.
Yeah.
It's osmosis. It's in my blood. But yeah, I was basically, all it took was a DM for me. So
Amazing. Jainardo?
Yeah, I got somebody got in touch with me. I think it was through email or through text, one of those two, or both. So I saw and I was like, we would like to know if you're interested to be part of off-Broadway Buena Vista Social Club musical. And I was like, that sounds like my ground. Yeah, sign me in, man. Sign me in, whatever. Yeah, absolutely. And it has been, like I always say, every day it has been the best job I ever had.
But you knew about it before, right? Having grown up with this
I know
music,
about it
you knew
because,
about it.
well, I'm a musician myself. And when the actual CD came out in '97, and I saw it, and I turned around, and I looked at the name of the songs. A year before, I was already starting as a musician. And when I saw Cuarto de Tula there, I know that song. And then I didn't know how big this record will get.
Yeah.
And it reached to so many people worldwide. And well, here we are now,
Yeah.
30-something years after.
I know.
Later.
Incredible.
And I'm in a musical. It was a CD that I was looking in the back, and I was like, oh, I know that song.
And now you're singing it.
When I'm here.
Devon?
So I got an audition request through my agent in 2022 for one of the workshops that I was like unavailable for, and then got one in 2023, spring of 23, to do just one of the workshops, which is R&D. It's like research and development for a musical. So then I booked one of them actually as a different character, and so I helped kind of like develop it at one of the earlier stages. And then they wanted me to do another workshop, and then like off Broadway, but I was also unavailable. And then came back around, and for a different character, and they're like, yeah, like hey, and this character I was like, oh, I kind of this one seems a little right. This one seems a little more like something that I can do. So, and then I had an audition, went in, and it felt like a little bit of a formality. I'm not gonna lie. I saw them, they're just sitting there like, hey, good to see you. And I was so nervous. I was like the most nervous I'd ever been, because I kind of felt like it was like mine to lose a little bit. So I'm just like, guys, I'm so sorry. They're like, it's okay. It's okay. And then the music supervisor's like, we have to get something down, but like, just, you'll get it. And I was like, why you talking in the future tense, Dean? Like, and then after that, my agent was like, an hour later, they were like, you're on a stronghold. Next day, they're
Got
like,
it.
congratulations, you're going to Broadway.
I like I like the unavailable. You play a little hard to get, and then they come after you. I love it. Isa?
So I mean, I've been like everyone else here. Well, mostly everyone else here, that I've been just auditioning for things in my life, and that's just how the grind works. And so I was actually in college, and last year and last summer, and I was just auditioning for things, and then this had come up, and I sent in a tape, as most people do now, and I, just put it on the back burner and was just like, okay, that's done. Like, I enjoyed singing in Spanish, and then the next week I was going out of the country, and they were like, we want to see you in. And I was like, also kind of this unavailable thing where I was like, ooh, I really want to do this, but I'm like, can we make something work? They made something work with me. And then again, went out of the country, enjoyed a little summer vacation. And then I came back, and they were like, okay, we're doing in-person auditions. And I was grateful enough that they could fly me out to New York. And I did the auditions for 2 days, and just for this one character, the final auditions. And then the next day I got in at 2 a.m. back to home, and I was sleeping, and I woke up at 10 a.m. to a call from my manager saying, hi, you don't have to do that other audition that we had, that we have you doing, because you got this one. And I was like, slay. It was amazing. It was like, I woke up like, drool everywhere.
So a lot of you, this is your Broadway debut. The majority of you. All of you. I've done a lot of homework. Yes. All of you. Broadway debut. Amazing. So just talk a little bit about kind of what you thought it was going to be like and what it's really like now that you guys are all, I see your face, Wes. Anyone can kick us off.
I was reluctant to do it because I'm not American, so Broadway has always been something that sounds more like Steve Jobs, like Hollywood, like something that is familiar but foreign. And
Careful
so,
your apple, bro.
I was touring, I was doing
Apple.
my
Google. You mean Sundar, right? Sundar Pichai.
something foreign, right? And so when I kind of like did when they called me for Broadway, because we did a off-Broadway run that was like 3 months at the Atlantic Theater close to here, and it was amazing. But it was like I've never done theater before, so I did that, and it was cool. And I'm like, this is great. I'm back to touring. And so then they called me for the Broadway opportunity, and I called my bandmates. They were from California, and like, I have this Broadway thing. But actually, something really cool happened to us. We were able to license one of our songs for Grey's Anatomy, and so this year was like was gonna be like a cool year for us. And I'm like, I got this call to go to Broadway, but next year it looks so great for us. And they, the three of them call me back. They're like, "You're fucking out of your mind if you don't do this."
Take it.
Like, what are you talking about?
Right,
Like, we have so many things planned out. I'm not doing. You're doing it. So
Okay.
one of my bandmates' dad called me. He's a judge in California. He's like, "Mel, I don't know how much they're gonna pay you. You have to do it." So I was reluctant a little bit because I already kind of like saw like how the theater was. But then when I came to the Broadway thing, I'm so grateful they pushed me to do it because I've learned so much and my whole life has changed completely.
I bet. Anyone else expectations of what you thought it was going to be versus what it is? It's exhausting. I can imagine.
Well, I relate a little bit to what he said before. I just was hoping that it will not become like you said, like a la la. But it has been a magnificent experience, in my opinion. I mean, it has gone beyond my expectations working in it, and the way how it has been, like the final product, and it's just great to see the reaction of people when they see it. They come like with this
So
light
happy.
in their face and their eyes, and people crying. It's a very good. It's a very great. How can I say it? It's a very great. It's a satisfaction to see people like that.
Yep.
actually piggybacking off of that. I thought it was gonna be just like growing up. It was always Broadway is like you do your job and you go. So I didn't think it would be as fulfilling as and I didn't know that similar to Mel. I didn't think it would be an authentic thing because I'm like they got me. I'm not even Latino. Why they got me in here? Like they probably got a bunch of like fake like people that look at. So I'm like I had all of these preconceived notions of like it's not gonna be what it is. And again, I met the people, and then I was like, oh, all these people are insanely talented, very nice people. And then the people that come to see the show, Latino or not, they just love the show. So it's just so fulfilling to see that and meeting them at Stage Door. And some people have such a deep connection to this story, and whether it's them that left or their family that left. And I've had people that danced with Omara and her sister at the Tropicana. It's really cool to meet these people.
The woman sitting next to me was crying the entire time.
Wow.
And I looked at her and I kept giving her Kleenex because I'm a mom, so I have Kleenex in my bags. And she was like, these are tears of joy. And I was like, oh, it really touches so many people because it's part of their history and their heritage. Mm-hmm. You all? Or do you want to move on? Okay, let's move on. So for those who haven't seen it, there's a really interesting tension because it takes place, as I mentioned, in these two timelines. And in the 50s, you have this backdrop of this leading up to the Cuban Revolution, but you also have this vibrancy of the music. So for those of you who played the young characters, that's Issa, Devon, and Wesley, knowing that your characters were living in this period, how did you go about preparing for it? Did you want to learn more about the context of the 50s in Cuba? What was your process of figuring out kind of their state of mind?
I think it was very helpful to have people who lived and live in Cuba with us in this experience. I'm specifically thinking of David Oquendo. He is he's one of our featured guitarists. But he's so much more than that. He's amazing. He's worked with with the real Compay Segundo, and I remember being in rehearsals, and we would just sit with the music, and because this is an original Broadway show, we're a new one, we're making changes to the songs to make it more theater, to make it whatever, just to make it more authentic to us and to our voices. And he was explaining specifically for me Omara, and just how she's got this she's known as the queen of feeling, and she has got this deepness to her voice, and that he was like, take that with you wherever you can, in any place of the song, try and find that. And that was important to me because I was like, that is at the end of the day, that is why she stayed. This music is, and the people that she loves, this is why she stayed in Cuba. And so it was nice to hear from him about what was going on from an actual one-on-one experience, compared to doing as much research as I can. And I feel like that's I was grateful to have him, still grateful to have him in this experience.
You got it firsthand. Mm-hmm. I would have been like, tell me all the stories. Tell me
the
everything.
rehearsals were so they were long, and we were like, okay, you're done with music, and I was like, no.
Yeah, I want to stay. Amazing.
Yeah. So it was a combination of watching every single YouTube video that exists about the history of Cuba and
Nice
Cuban
shout out.
Revolution.
Well done.
Yeah. And also going down the Wikipedia rabbit holes and all the articles, just reading, watching videos, watching interviews, and then having the confirmation and also the access to the people in the room who are actually there and who have this connection. David Oquendo lived around the corner from Compay Segundo. And so not only was he instrumental in orchestrating the music, orchestrating the show, but also, kind of giving us personal anecdotes. But because he had such a heated relationship with the person that I'm portraying, it was getting that confirmation. He's like, "Ere, compay." You know, he's like, "No, that's compay, that one, good job. And I'm like, okay, you're just getting that confirmation at the same time. And you know, as we're learning the music, it's kind of, I'm like indirectly learning from the person that I'm portraying, which was like kind of cool, but also kind of like meta and and just like really cool and it's really special. So it was just a combination of all those things, you know, just the in person and literally I'm an expert on the Cuban Revolution at this point.
Yeah, so all of those things, and just we during the rehearsal process, we had the '90s cast would have their table work and table sessions and talking about the history and how we're going to convey all of these crazy things of like the Cuban regime and like how we're gonna melt that into this 2-hour show. So the '90s cast had one, and the '50s cast also did, and we talked a lot about, specifically for me, how we're going to convey, like, you know, the elements of racial discrimination in Cuba and like how it plays not even just here but also in Cuba and in the '50s at that, when, you know, the revolution was going on, and expressing those beautiful themes of, you know, Afro-Cubanism that Ibrahim very strongly stood for, like Bruca Maniwa talks about, you know, the slaves that came through and during the transatlantic slave trade and all these crazy themes, and just so I did a lot of research on what it was and talked to Sahim and talked to David, and then also a beautiful part too in the show is I do a Batista section, which is like for Ogun, which is like an African god, and we did a lot of research on that, and a lot of the musicians are initiated into that religion, and I got to learn a lot. I also studied a lot of it being in Miami and Ailey, which is probably, I think, a question for later. But yeah, I did a lot of research on that and got to work a lot of my artistic expression, I think, in this show is with the music and the dancing, specifically the dancing. So we did a lot of research to
Talk a little bit about that. You're right, it is a follow-up question.
Yeah,
but talk a little bit
great.
about your dance, your extensive kind of training, and how choreography kind of played a story element in the musical.
Yeah, absolutely. So my background in dance was in Afro-Caribbean movements. I studied that in Miami with a guy named Peter London. He is pretty much my dance teacher from when I was 15 years old. And he was a Martha Graham principal dancer. Alvin Ailey, he's from Trinidad and Tobago. And I learned a lot about the deities and African gods and how that was expressed through dance. Like we would have, they would have different parties and things celebrating the gods and thanking the gods. So a lot of it was based around that. And then 2 years ago in the summer, I studied at Ailey School, and it was kind of the technical side of it. And it really helped because, yes, it's great to have the technique, but also with this authentic and grounded type of dance, you really have to just be connected in any way possible. So a lot of it was just sitting down and learning from Peter, and just, you know, he was very big on the divine center and connecting yourself and connecting your chakras to the higher power, whatever it is. And it goes far beyond like belief. It's really cool, and belief and spirituality, but it's really cool to connect the dancing to, it's almost like you're being, for lack of a better word, possessed by this, you know, this beautiful art. So it was really cool to tap that into on a Broadway commercial stage. Yeah.
So moving to the folks who portrayed your characters in the '90s. I don't like to say the older versions because it's not. You're not.
Less young.
The less young versions. The rebirth of the Buena Vista Social Club, it really did become a global phenomenon. You both, even on this panel, spoke about the responsibility and the weight of making sure that it was authentic, making sure that you were representing the legends appropriately. Did you feel that weight, and how did you do that day in and day out? You know, knowing your history, and talk a little bit about the importance of where you come from and your history.
You're gonna cut me off guard like that.
You guys, we sent you these questions.
And I check them.
I think
These aren't gotchas.
I'll-
Go ahead.
yeah, I think it's a responsibility because for some people this is part of their lives,
Right.
and it's also part of my life. Like this character used to be my childhood musical hero, Ibrahim, and I've been in touch with his son, and at first it felt a little bit like a weight on my shoulder because I'm not an actor, so I felt like I had to fake something. I had to impersonate something that I am not. But,
This is your Broadway debut and your acting debut.
Yes.
That is incredible, you guys. Wait till you see him on stage. That's incredible.
And so something that really helped me was that I'm so lucky that my life resembles a little bit or have like points of contact with the Ibrahim Ferrer's life. So I grew up in Cuba, graduated from music university. I started playing in symphonic orchestras and jazz groups, and I was kind of like in the chic environment of music, musicians, where you're like, all right, you're gonna be performing and whatever. Anyway, I ended up working in Switzerland for a bit, and then in Denmark for a bit, and I went to Spain on holidays, and my working visa was about to expire. So I went to the Cuban consulate, and they took my passport and they banned my entrance to Cuba for 5 years. And so in order to survive, I had to busk, and I had to play in bars for food, and and then fast forward in time, here I am on Broadway, and I feel like Ibrahim Ferrer's life was a little bit like that. In the 50s, he was like playing, performing with, like in these different places, and then the revolution happened. All of that changed. He was busking and shoe shining in the street, and then there was a rebirth of his musicianship and his life through the Buena Vista in the 90s. And so what I realized and what my coaches helped me realize was like I didn't have to fake anything. I didn't have to impersonate anything. I could just like use my experiences and the things that I've gone through as the support for the script. And so that really made it so much more valuable for me to pay homage to their memory and to what they did to the world, because their lives are basically an inspiration or a resemblance of what my own life has been.
Jainardo, do you want to talk a little bit about, you have an extensive jazz background, and you are like an ambassadorship. You go around and teach and play jazz. Is it similar in that now you're like the ambassador for this cultural movement that is Cuban music?
Yeah, not necessarily jazz ambassador, but to be specific, I was a member of Lincoln Center Jazz Ambassador, so I did a trip twice with them. The first was in Latin America and the Caribbean, and the second one was North Africa, Central Africa. So, as an ambassador, let me see. I feel like right now in this show, we are being ambassadors ourselves.
Exactly.
Even if we don't have to travel, people are come to us to see us. The other thing is that, there are also plans of having this show for next as a tour next
Is that
year.
right? Well, that was one of the questions.
Yeah.
So you are planning on taking this?
I don't know if we're going, but the tour is
The tour is going. Okay.
So that's another way of being basically ambassadors of this story, if we can put it like that,
Spread the joy.
Yeah.
Spread the joy. So you guys we had a chance to hang out backstage, and there was clearly a connection with all of you. And it sounds like you just started working together in January. And the representation, the Buena Vista Social Club also has this deep-rooted friendship. What do you guys do backstage? What's your kind of like routine? I see some smiles. Like, how do you have this connection? It seems very organic, very natural. Do you guys hang out outside? I mean, it's so grueling, the hours that you have to maintain. So you spend a lot of time together, I would imagine.
I know many of the musicians. Sorry, I know many of the musicians because I'm a musician myself. So each time they bring another musician, I'm like, how you doing? And all of that. And most of the time they can tell you, me and some of them be driving crazy. People, practicing on stage because we be practicing also with the drums and all of that. So that's one of the things that, some people be doing exercise or calling or warming up on stage, things like that you do when you're on the stage. You were saying?
Well, when you do a show like this, your time is vastly compounded with each other. And so, yes, you say only since January, but like the mileage that comes from the hours and hours that you spend with each other, having to be vulnerable to like multiple extents, that it really just compounds the time and it compresses the time. And so you kind of get the same, like if you think about a regular friendship that you have, right? If you were really to put in the number of hours, 100 hours over maybe like several months, right? We do 100 hours in 2 weeks. Yeah. And so that alone is just, it gives you the opportunity to really connect and also see when somebody's frustrated, but it all happens very, very, very quickly. At the same time, I think throughout our entire building and just what the show is, we all kind of understand that like there's very, 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 very like minuscule drama, at least that I'm privy to, in the building. And I think we all just kind of come to it with the respect and the humility that this is so much bigger than all of us, and that we really are making history as the first Afro-Latino show on Broadway. And the first, this is the first year that 2 Latino shows have been on Broadway at the same time, ever. Mm-hmm. And so this is the first time a show has been on Broadway where all of the music is exclusively in Spanish. And so there's a legacy that we're kind of building and a history that we're making that kind of garners this respect from all of us. And at the same time, it's so much fun. Mm-hmm. Like, it's just fun. The music makes you happy. And so even when we're waking up early and it's cold outside and we're going into rehearsal, we walk in and the music is playing. Yeah. There's like smiles going and like you're like, you still got crust in your eyes, just trying to get the coffee to hit your cerebellum as fast as possible. And you're just like, oh man, it's just, there's just a warmth that just melts you and defrosts you and opens you to that camaraderie. And it's a social club.
Yeah.
It's a social, it opens you to that experience of building this beautiful thing together and appreciating everybody else's gifts that they have to bring to it. And it's just a celebration. Mm-hmm. At the end of the day, it's a celebration every day. Yes. And even when you're not having the best day, we're on stage and it's, you're those first moments where you go,
yeah. Oh, so good.
And it kind of like, it just kicks up this kicks up this dust, from the ground, and it's like, and then we're just like breathing in it, and we're there together.
It's amazing. I love that.
It's great to love your job.
Yeah. You guys are lucky.
Simply put. Right?
We are going to open up to the audience questions. There's 2 mics if you want to line up. And while we're getting folks to line up, we have something called a Dory. So we're also streaming this. So because as you know, we have offices all over, over the world. And so people submit their questions. So I'll read the first one before we go to our live audience. The show is the most vibrant and beautiful Broadway show I've ever seen. Any plans to tour nationally? Thank you for blessing us with so much Latin greatness. So you mentioned there's a plan to tour nationally.
There's a plan to tour, I think, next fall. And we'll see what happens because it's going really well on Broadway right now. So maybe we'll have to clone the companies so that we can send a company out and still be able to perform here on Broadway.
That's usually what happens. Like when it's successful, it's like, okay, then you have another company and then like Hamilton had like 15 tours going on at the same time. They did it too fast. But, a lot of these shows, like MJ has like 5 companies out right now. North American, Germany, London's about to close. Australia, but Australia's going to be so you kind of you build this thing and it becomes a machine, unfortunately and fortunately. But then unfortunately. And then, you just kind of like plug it and you kind of recreate this thing and it becomes another extension of the show. But, they still want to make that Broadway money.
This is the original. You guys come see it.
As well as the touring company, so,
Great, we have a question over here.
Yeah, I was able to see it in the Atlantic, and then I've seen it a couple times on Broadway. And so, as an audience member, it's been interesting to see, like, there's a pivotal scene that used to be a dance, and now it's a conversation. So it was interesting to see all of those changes.
Thank you for coming so many times.
Yeah. Well, I'm Cuban, so it's kind of like a requisite whenever our family's in town. But would love to hear from the perspective of the two folks who were in the Atlantic. What is it like transferring from off-Broadway to on-Broadway with all of these changes to something you did day in and day out for 3 months?
Yeah, it was interesting because actually the Atlantic it felt like a complete show, and so when it transferred to Broadway, and Broadway needs to be really compact, and in terms of like the production in itself, and the dimension of this, it was 200 seats in the Atlantic. It's 1,200 seats on Broadway. And so, there was some adjustment. There was a little bit of a something that felt a little bit like a grind because we were attached. I mean, maybe me personally, because I'm not really a theater person, and there were some moments in the Atlantic version that were so, oh my God, is that gonna go? But then, when the thing was complete and we started trying it in front of the audiences and everything felt so in a flow and beautiful, I think it grew. It became a more complex and compact kind of art form.
Awesome, thank you.
And then one more question from the Dory. I love the performance. I understand that this is an amalgam of a true and embellished stories. What is true and what is embellished? I really want to know.
This is actually kind of fun. So from what I know of, we, like, a lot of the ages are different. Like, we've got the 50s cast, and you assume they're around the same age, and in real life they're not. Like, Compay Segundo he was
50.
He was
in
50
the 1950s.
when
he was born in
I think,
1902.
When I think he met Omara as someone who's in her younger 20s or something. And so that's something that when I think about it, I'm like, oh, it takes me out because I have to just remember. I'm like, okay, this is embellished at the end of the day. And then one of my favorite things is that the romance between Ibrahim and Omara is not real. So I'm sure there's love there, of course, but I would hope so. But it's not as it's not as emotional as that, and as real as we're making it. I don't think there was any kiss, in the real life. So I think that's very fun because I'm this is something that I get to make true in my story as this character.
Ruben and Compay didn't meet until they made the album. In the show, we're kind of portrayed as besties. But they didn't meet until they made the album. That was the first time that they had met. I don't think Ivy didn't. Ivy also.
Yeah,
they took a picture. Omara posted a picture a couple months ago of them together. I think she recently passed. No. Yeah, no, Ivy.
Oh, I did.
Ivy and Omara, they weren't estranged.
Yeah, they weren't estranged.
They weren't estranged, and they
that's
were
good to
together.
know.
She posted a picture of her and her sister before she passed.
Oh, tension for Broadway.
Yeah, they have to theatricize, and Omara is also very, very, very warm and flirty and so soft. So that is very different as well.
Very different. I love it. One more question over here.
Hi, my name is Maya. I had the privilege of bringing my dad to see this show in February, and he loved it. And apparently I gave him cool credit, because he told all of his friends about it. It was before it got even bigger, so I got that cool credit. So my question is, I have only recently become a theater fan, and from an outside observer, it just seems like it's an art form that is deeply collaborative and requires so much trust and vulnerability. And I'm so curious if you can provide a peek behind the curtain on what that process looks like and what learnings could be applied to other work types where you're building trust. So are there any exercises or things that really helped you bond as a unit, and that could be applied to
Great
space
question
Google?
for Googlers here. Great question.
I guess it's kind of when you go on your first day of school that you don't know anyone. Really start slowly knowing people and knowing the cliques here and now. And then anybody who else would like to add
I
something?
remember during rehearsals we had a lot of time set aside to just sit in a circle and do cute little bonding exercises of like we had a couple of questions and we all put our answers on this little card and then we threw it in a hat and we would guess somebody would go in the middle and pick a random one up and be like, whose is this? And then
fun.
all the way until everybody was done. So we had stuff like that set aside to, connect us. And we also, very early on, we established that while this is a very intimate and beautiful story, this is also, at the end of the day, we are work family. Because family, if y'all get in a tussle or whatever, you're going to make up and it's fine. But like, we were like, hey, if I don't get my check on Thursday, you know what I'm saying? So we established that very early on. And there was a lot of, I guess, a lot opened up in that. Like, I say that to say. So we established the relationship very early on, and we all understood what it was. And we also obviously do care about one another. So we set a lot of time aside to get to know each other and, establish that relationship of like, hey, we're cool, but this is a work thing, a work family, and you know what I'm saying. But we come above that in a sense when we establish that, and it's all in good fun. So, yeah.
I think. Oh, sorry, dude. I was like checking behind me to see if you were gonna answer. I think along with that, like, yes, there are those group exercises that can help you, like, especially establish that trust or just get to know people a lot easier. Like, I think that at the end of the day, who you put out there, like who you put out into the world is, what you're going to try and receive back. And I feel like if you don't, there's no need to like be an open book to share. Like, if that's your thing, that's my thing, then please do that and like just be confident in that, because I feel like the more that I have like shared something with someone that I feel comfortable to share, I find that they feel a little bit more open and inclined to do the same thing. And I know we learned that, but like in this process, you're going to be spending so much time with these people. Like, it's sometimes easy to let that guard down, to like trust that they'll take care of you and you'll take care of them on stage, off stage. And of course there are boundaries, and when that happens, you get there. But if you're putting that good energy out yourself, not to sound, but like if you're putting that out there yourself, like you're bound to find that. And so to have that trust in yourself at the end of the day, that you're confident in yourself and that you're going to make the friends that, you want, then I feel like that's what's created that for me in this, my like inner circle, if you will.
Theater is a very vulnerable thing. Acting is a very vulnerable thing. Being human is a very vulnerable thing. And so I think every show process is different. I think I've done a little more experience with like just a bunch of different shows. And you have to be very intentional about creating a space where people feel like they are allowed to be vulnerable and you're allowed to also be closed. But I think what happens is, and what Sahim was so good about, and what I've had other directors, yes, the exercises, there are ways to kind of put play into how you're approaching that experience. Because, we have this standardized, these formalized things, okay, we're gonna do this and this thing, but I think a lot of time, play is vulnerable, but play is fun, and play is how you learn quicker. That's how you are more open. The brain scans that show how the quickest way to learn is through play, because it's not a formalized thing and it's not compartmentalized. And so what happens, I find, that could translate to many different workspaces, is fostering a space where people feel like they can be vulnerable, but they also feel like they don't have to be. And they feel like they can come to it where they are, and people respect what that space is and say, you know what, I'll see you when you're ready for me. Or like, I got you as well. And like, whatever you're doing, we're doing this together, and we got it.
I love that. And that's in life. That's in life, right? We're going to take one more question. Are we at time? We're going to take 2 more questions. Great. Go ahead.
Hi, thanks for coming today. Love the show. I saw it right before I went to Cuba for the first time this year. So you guys got me in the mood. The whole party scene and all that on stage is wonderful. My question for you is that I noticed that this production has the band on stage and performing with all the actors, right? It's all kind of mixed in. It's a little bit different from some of the other shows where the band is in an orchestra pit, hidden. How is the experience different as far as like as a performer on stage?
It's perfect. I love having them on the stage with me. Although sometimes I feel like I can't break character and look at them, but sometimes they'll do something amazing in their solo or something like that, and I'll be like, "Ooh, that's amazing!" Like, you know, but I can't do that on stage. So like just to have that that authenticity every night, it's perfect for me. Like I couldn't ask for anything better, especially for my Broadway debut.
Yeah, I think what's one of the things that's very special about this show is that it's a mix between an actual play and a concert. Is because there's no like musical dialogues. I was waiting for you, right? So I really love the fact that the band is there for you guys to experience that concert. And then the play has all the weight and the drama and the funny parts and all of that. So I feel it's a very beautiful combination of those two things.
Show is about the music. Yeah. So they really were intentional about highlighting that. And we were just, there's like story in between it, but the show is about the music at the end of the day. And so that was integral. And also, these are not like, regular union musicians. These are like Cuban musicians. That's not like, Jeremy from Des Moines, who is like, but sorry, no offense to any Iowans out there. But no, like it's real. Like they're like, well, some of them would be like, I would never done this if I was in a pit. They're on stage, and they're also they're characters in the story as well. So it's I think the most integral part of the show.
Do you guys know, actually the question before was exactly that. Do you know the story of how they assembled the musicians on the stage?
I don't think that's a question for us, but because we're not, like I said before, I'm a musician myself, and David Oquendo is the one that I have to say thanks because he also recommended me for this, and he recommended me as a singer and musician. Somehow I end up acting. I did it before when I was a teenager. So getting the band together, I guess that was a process of all the people that are not in this group
it was
right here.
Juan de Marcos,
exactly.
Handpicked everybody. He called it between him and David Oquendo and Chacho, but he handpicked everybody.
Okay.
Like he called them and was like,
But Juan de Marcos is the original producer of the Buena Vista Social Club album from the 90s, the Grammy Award album.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So he's like a little bit of a godfather of the show.
Yes.
Yeah, and he is the reason why a lot of all of this Cuban Latin jazz music is still prominent today because he is the safe keeper of it all, and he's the reason why it's still going. And the fact that he
you guys are also the reason why it's still going. This is the whole, it's true. You are sharing this to the rest of the world. We're going to take one more question and we're going to wrap.
Hi, so first of all, thank you so much for coming to our company. I'm Karen, and I'm a dancer, not an actor. And today I've heard a lot about vulnerability on the theater stage or backstage. And unfortunately, or fortunately, I'm only familiar with vulnerability in a dance company. So my question is, for those who have experience in both, how does that vulnerability differ, if any, between a theater company and a dance company?
I think, for theater, I think it's a little less on the nose, and I think that dance does something that theater cannot, and vice versa. I think dance is a very physical thing, so a lot of things, like when you're mad, it's more here, and you're like, and you can obviously implement that in your dance, like whatever the emotion is, whatever the feeling is for the dance, and like dance company, it's, but there's just a certain breath, different breath and a different vibe that comes with theater. A lot of it is more internalized, whereas I think confrontational versus internal. Dance is more confrontational, and it speaks on so many, and so does theater, but I just think that they have different have different, I guess, alleyways into the same deal. Like I kind of equate it with, I kind of talked about this in class the other day. I equate dance with like Malcolm X and theater with Martin Luther King. Like Martin Luther King like used his words and like uplifted the community with his speeches and with his words, and Malcolm X was a lot more about physical force and like getting what he wanted. So I guess like dance kind of has that effect, and it's all for the same cause, but just different avenues. Thank you. That's the word. I like that. Yeah. I hope that helped.
The last story question is not a question, it's a statement, but I do want to read it out loud. I just want to say that I was in attendance of your performance in July, and it felt so magical to be in a room with so many of the Latin community of all generations. Dancing to the happy songs, wiping away tears to the heartfelt songs. It did not feel like just a Broadway musical. It felt like a cultural connector and celebration. So thank you for this beautiful performance. I want to encourage every single one of you to go see this, to go see it again, to go see it again. It is a joyous event. I want to thank Isa and Devon and Jainardo and Wes and Mel for visiting us here in our Google offices and sharing your talent with the world. And I lastly just want to say representation matters, especially for this generation that can see themselves in you on the stage. So thank you for what you do. We celebrate you. We're so grateful for you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you for doing
thank
this.
you.
I mean, having this conversation in a place like Google, which in so many people's eyes, I mean, people who want a better world and all that, see like these huge corporations as the devil. It's so great to plant a seed of conversations like this about inclusiveness and art and vulnerability. I think this is something great that you guys are doing here, so we appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for coming.